So I was asked to speak today because I've been told that we've got a great story to tell, and I think we do. So I want to share with you what we've been through and where we are now. I have to confess, though, that over the last 4 years, there's been many times when it hasn't felt that great. Looking back today and having been in the building for 12 months, I can acknowledge that we've been on a very long and arduous journey, but we've come out with an amazing outcome. Out of the misfortune of the fire has come the opportunity to have a purpose-built, modern facility of over 6,000 square metres on our original site, with the added bonus of 185 car parks and a covered bike stand for 40 bikes on site, all provided by the landlord. And I have to contrast that with those in the city who have not started their rebuild and consider ourselves to be very fortunate indeed. So when I look back over the last 4 years, I recall the damage from the earthquake in September and in February, and the disruption to our people. With a staff of over 250 people at that time, the salary cost alone is $80,000 a day, and never once did our parent company waver in their support. And if the quakes were not bad enough to deal with, then came the devastating fire, which completely destroyed the building, which housed at least 100 of our employees. We lost everything except for a few sodden work papers in the front office, from a fire that was so severe that the racks in the server room started to melt, even though that room had a 4-hour fire rating. It's easy to recall the frustration of losing everything, especially losing all paper HR and finance records. Fire is devastating. With earthquakes, you often get the opportunity to go back in and get a few things. With a fire, they're gone forever. So after a day of standing on the footpath and watching the fire department deal with the fire, it finally dawned on me that I had to start thinking about what we were going to do. The business had to go on, and it was a challenge to know where to start. And I'm still amazed at the support that we got from our suppliers, the business community, even people that we'd had nothing to do with in the past, from our parent company and from the employees. Within 1 day, we had downloaded enough data to a co-location data centre in town to have all of our remote sites in the Asia Pacific region up and running on email and phone connectivity. Within 2 days, we'd restored all email and phones for our local staff, remembering that we had 150 other staff in our second building who were really keen to keep working. Within 2 weeks, we'd purchased and set up all of the computers destroyed in the fire for the 100 staff, and prioritised and downloaded all of the data 24 hours a day for 2 weeks to get data onto new servers. And my vivid memory from that time was the willingness of the staff to help in any way they could, and their absolute constant desire to get working. And then I recall the difficulty in May 2011, just 3 months after that earthquake of 22nd of February, trying to find office accommodation for 100 staff. It must have been the very worst time to be looking for accommodation, when all of those people who'd moved from town to the suburbs had taken every available piece of space. But our staff are adaptive and resilient, and especially at the time when we were using the corporate boxes at the arena. They had to move out at the end of every day that there was an event, and then the next morning they had to re-cable and set up again the next morning. They did that for 6 months. They became ultimate packers and ultimate minimalists. They learnt the more junk you have, the more you have to pack up at night, and the more you have to unpack the next morning. And even then, one of the employees said to me, "I just can't wait to get a desk with a drawer." So fast forward 4 years and we have our new building, a building full of innovation and design features, all thanks to the many people who've supported us along the way. When you work in the building every day, a building that is so fit for purpose, and memories of the trauma and the pain and the crowded working conditions, the multiple moves, those frustrations are long forgotten. You almost forget how special these new working conditions are. But each visitor to our building reminds us how great this building really is. Every week we have people who ask if they can come and view the building, and they constantly remind us how lucky we are. And we're proud to show them our new home and to acknowledge all those who helped us to get there today. The entire planning, design and build process was the coming together of a large number of people who were willing to invest in new technology and create a building which was substantial and which is capable of withstanding a large seismic event. Not that we want to validate that fact. Those who had the vision and the confidence in the technology were the University of Canterbury, who designed the technology of laminated veneer lumber columns and shear walls with post-tensioned rods. Opus, who championed that technology and designed our building. Our landlord, Ian Kennedy, who was willing to invest in that technology, and our building is 1.5 times the size of the original building. And this was at a time when I'm sure he would have preferred not to put his retirement savings into this shaking city. For his faith at the beginning, for getting us started when his bank and his insurance company were both hesitant. And then to his insurance company for understanding the technology and providing the insurance, and to his bank who were nervous about providing him with funds for the construction process, while insurance proceeds were still being paid out. And then to CityCare, who took over the construction after the collapse of Mainzeal, who committed to a very challenging finish date and finished on exactly the day they committed to, and we moved in the following day. There was always an element of risk in this building because it's the first building of its kind incorporating both post-tensions columns and shear walls. And this was CityCare's first major building construction project. And looking back on that process, there were a huge number of construction details which were solved on the fly, but we'll be ever thankful for the care and attention of the CityCare project manager, who managed to solve each little hiccup with speed and creativity. We also need to thank Creative Spaces, who listened to what we wanted, created a workable and special office environment. On the day we moved in, I set up a comments database where people could tell me things that were not right, things that we needed to give our attention to. There were very, very few negative comments. The one I can remember was that there weren't enough teaspoons in the kitchen, so I guess we didn't do such a bad job. Not a bad result for a $5 million project. And that's just the internal fit out. It was an $18 million building. The move itself also went well, and with the help of Crown, we moved all 240 people from 2 separate buildings into one in 1.5 days over one weekend, with very little downtime for employees, just the packing and unpacking time. And one company we went to for a quote for this move said, "It's impossible to do that in one weekend." But we knew we could do it, and it was just a matter of planning, and with Crown and Trimble, we proved them wrong. None of the rebuild would have been possible without the support of our parent company CEO and the board. My belief is that most companies of our size, without a supportive parent, would have actually struggled to survive the loss of this magnitude, even with good insurance cover. It's taken 4 years to settle the insurance of our fire claim, and hopefully we will be paid out the remaining dollars of our claim soon. And like Winnebago's, we have been helped by the excellent insurance cover that we had and our exceptional record keeping. Bad as it was tough, but we got there. From the initial earthquakes and then the fire, our parent company has never once hesitated to support us. Steve Berglund's words on the morning of the fire were, Tell your staff we're committed to Christchurch and we will help you rebuild. And they did just that. They allowed us a budget which would do the job well, and they gave us the freedom to create an exceptional environment for our staff. And with the additional space, we've already been able to add over 30 new employees in our Christchurch office in the last 12 months, bringing the total employees in Christchurch to around 270. And at the time of the fire, Steve Berglund, our CEO, said that the group in Christchurch was key to the research and development arm of his company, and the commitment of the staff to delivering throughout what had been an extremely difficult time for people in Christchurch over the earthquakes had reinforced the value of the New Zealand operation within the greater Trimble company. As mentioned earlier, the building is designed to withstand high levels of seismic activity through the dissipation of energy and the controlled deflection of the structure. These dissipators are easily replaced following a seismic event and provide an economical repair alternative. Additionally, the beam column joints incorporate forced locking points, which allow greater control of joint behaviour and reduce damage during rocking. The joints and connections are exposed to allow staff to view the underlying structure and to give them confidence in the building, and to enable the steel dissipators to be easily replaced during an earthquake if required. This gives the employees and management great comfort to know that in any future event, we have a building which will survive and which will be relatively easy to repair. Additional innovation in the building includes an exterior curtain wall system with insulation, double glazing and tinting, which reduces glare and eliminates the need for sunshades outside. These innovations maximise energy savings and will minimise the carbon footprint over the life cycle of the building. Noise and vibration levels are reduced by the use of a timber concrete composite floor, and the design incorporates careful management and efficient use of energy with innovative lighting features and movement sensors to control lighting. And with an installed lighting density that is 50% above the building code requirements, the electricities today are 2/3 of the level of what we paid prior to the fire. The quality of the building is further evidenced by the fact that it was highly commended in the Canterbury Rebuild Innovation category of the 2012 New Zealand Wood Awards and came second in an international structural award competition in 2014. And the judges' comment in the international competition was that the project pushes the boundaries of earthquake-resistant timber design and continues research into performance-based solutions that are both sustainable and economic. The judges were impressed with the approach that allows easy replacement of deformed energy dissipation elements and a rapid post-earthquake return to functionality. And as tenants in this building, we too are pleased to be in a building of this class, innovation and sustainability. All thanks go to the innovation from our own Canterbury University. During the construction of this building, Trimble took the opportunity to incorporate a Trimble-designed monitoring system which constantly gathers data on the building's performance. A series of seismometers and strain gauges can record 20 samples per second. The benefits of this technology is that it allows the opportunity to measure how the building handles energy, the performance of the engineering components, and the overall displacement of the building as a result of an earthquake. And as the leader of our organisation, and with the lives of up to 300 employees at risk, this gives me an instant, data-driven assessment of the integrity of the building based on a simple 3-light system, which is as simple as you can enter the building but must seek an engineer's report, or do not enter. During the earthquakes, one of the toughest decisions I had to make was whether the building was safe for employees to go back in, and I had to make those decisions with no data available. Now, many pieces of data taken on how the building has performed relative to data taken from the ground outside the building will give a decision based on the performance of the building during an earthquake event. And if you want to know a little bit more about this technology, it will be covered in one of the upcoming breakout sessions. So finally, this has been a long 4 years, but we recognise that we're one of the lucky companies, lucky to have a supportive parent, landlord, insurer, banker, and suppliers who have helped us to build and complete on time one of the first substantial single-tenanted buildings to be rebuilt since the earthquakes. The construction of this building allows Trimble New Zealand to continue to innovate out of our Christchurch office in our core business of developing products for distribution around the world by our parent company. We've grown from 41 staff in 1991 when Trimble purchased us to 360 in New Zealand today. Some of those operate out of New Zealand, North Island locations. Also in Christchurch, we look after the region for finance, HR, and IT capability, and that is an employee base of 500 employees. We're continuing to strengthen our relationships with our local suppliers and the local universities, and will continue to actively contribute to the global Trimble organisation in innovation and development of products. We expect all these relationships to continue and to drive our future growth with our 12-year lease commitment on this new building.
Now, before you go,
Yes.
I've got a couple of wee questions.
Oh, have you?
I have. Yes. Firstly, how involved were you with the journey of the rebuild? Were you sort of working with everybody?
Intimately.
Intimately.
Yeah. So I wasn't part of the original decision to go with the laminated veneer lumber columns and the wood technology. That was a discussion between the Canterbury University, Opus, and the landlord. But they came to me very early on and said, this is the sort of technology that we want to use. Are you happy with that? Well, it was very difficult to say no because it just sounded like such a big opportunity to have a very sustainable environment and to have a very safe environment. They then came with 2 or 3 different plans, and so out of that I said, well, I think this one suits our need better. We wanted a single building where we were all on one site, all in one building, to make it very easy to have collaboration between our various business units. And so once I created that, they went away and placed in the landlord's services, which were the toilets, the kitchens, the showers, and then said, right, here's a blank plate, over to you. You can do what you like with this building. Our landlord is amazingly good. We'd had him for 20 years before that, so he is really very much a Trimble fan, and he just said, this is your building. You can do whatever you like with the inside of it. He lives in Wanaka. He was really excited every time he came to see us, but he didn't actually put any input into it, except if I asked him for validation of what we wanted to do. So we're really lucky.
It's interesting because I doubt whether you had a background in that and yet you picked it up in
No, my background is boring finance stuff. But I mean, I've worked for Trimble for a long time, and actually was part of the renovation of the building that actually burnt down when we moved from the city out to the suburbs. I'd had a little bit of experience about what we did, and I know intimately what our group do. And what I know is we need to create a flexible environment for our staff, because we're always growing, we're always changing what we're doing, we're always working with different business units within Trimble. And today, it will be different from what we're doing tomorrow. And even after we've drawn up the plan and we've worked out the growth opportunities for each of the business units and where they were going to be placed in the building, one group used up all of their 5-year growth expectation before we moved in. And so we had to shuffle people around and reorganise things a little bit within about 12 weeks of actually moving into the building. But that's what Trimble is, and if you don't like change, you don't work for Trimble, because to grow and to be adaptable and to do what you want to do for the customers, you have to be flexible.
You are envied by a huge volume of people for having a team that is so behind you. How the hell do you get them to take ownership of Trimble?
I don't know, ask them. I mean, it's a good company to work for. They love working for Trimble. It's an exciting company. It's going places. It's got amazing technology and they get the freedom to develop what they want, and they were listened to. I mean, we went out there originally and we said to the employees, what do you really want? And they wanted a light, bright, open, collaborative building with lots of technology in it. And so they gave me a broad brief, and then we came back to them and we gave each of the business unit areas their own, they could design roughly what they wanted, although there has to be a consistency across the whole building, but they were allowed to develop their own areas. One thing you find, though, is you gave them the opportunity to design it how they wanted it, but actually now they're in there, they realise that they actually didn't really know what they wanted, because they wanted to have their own cubes and they wanted to have walls around them because they'd been so used to being squashed up and being on top of one another. But now they're here, they realise that actually they like that collaborative bit where they weren't all put into little cubes, and now they want to take the cube walls out. So, you know, sometimes the employees know what they want and they think they know what they want, but when you come to it, they actually perhaps don't know quite so much.
So communication and just to and fro and taking them as equals.
Yeah, we had a lot of staff meetings where we showed them the progress, and as the building became more developed, we took groups of people over there to look at their areas and to put some input into it, and is this what you thought it was going to look like? And then quite near to the end, we actually took the employees over in their business units and allowed their managers to take them through their areas so that they knew where they were going to go, and so that they could work out which was their cube and how they were going to put their little bits of furniture and things. And so we carried them along with us as we were doing it.
And finally, because you hate this, but I know, but
yes.
For the 4 people in the room who don't know what Trimble do, please explain.
Oh, goodness gracious me. Well, I'm not a technology person. We provide solutions for customers to make their businesses more efficient. And so we work in 5 different business areas. We work in geospatial, which is survey and mapping. We work in agriculture. We work in transportation and logistics. We work in heavy civil, and we work in building construction. So those are our 5 main business areas that we work in. But then we also, underneath that, have an underlying structure where we'll look at what we call vertical markets. So we'll look at how we can take technologies designed by those 5 individual business units and put them into something like mining or railways or a vertical market as well. It's a very complicated company to explain because it's very divisionalised and general managers in charge of each of those business units. But so we're looking for solutions. So I'll give you an example. We bought a company that is an irrigation company. And so this irrigation company allowed us to add to our agricultural product line looking after water management on farms. So we were already had technology to look at planting, at fertilising, at harvesting, all of the various cycles that a farmer goes through. But here was the opportunity to bring in some new technology which allows on a pivot, and an irrigator has a pivot that could be up to 1.2 kilometres long with nodes which the water comes out of. So now we have this technology that remotely a farmer can turn on or off any pivot, any node on his pivot, so that when it goes over the field, if they don't want to water an area because there's already enough water there, or it's a road, or they're going over hedging, or a part that needs more water than some other part, they can turn on and off those individual pivots as they go around. It's the sort of thing that we're doing. Is that right, Paul?
That's one very good example.
Like heavy civil, so actually just one more thing. About 80 people on our staff are working for Caterpillar Trimble joint venture, which is a joint venture that Trimble has with Caterpillar, where we're doing technology to put Trimble technology on Caterpillar product in the factory. So bulldozers, excavators, graders will come out with Trimble product on it, which allows the operators of those machines to accurately work out what they're doing with the dirt that they're moving, so that they can do it much more efficiently and much more quickly than they did before.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.